Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to you from Informa Markets, the organizers of REI. This is Amit. Welcome to one of the most niche sessions of the day, CBC Financial and Investor Hub session. The session is hosted by CBC in partnership with Informa Markets. We have a very eminent panel today comprising of Shri K.S. Popli, advisor to International Solar Alliance and former CMD of Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency. Also, the honorary co-chair of CBC for India. The session chairs and moderators for the day are Ms. Mani Khurana, Senior Energy Specialist and Task Team Leader at the World Bank. She heads the World Bank's Battery Storage Program in India. Dr. Rashi Gupta, Managing Director at Vision Mechatronics and CBC Vice Chair for India and Chair of CBC Energy Storage Hub. The speakers, Simay Akar, Chief Commercial Officer at Inosis, CBC Empowering Women Hub, Chair for Turkey, Harsh Chhajjar, Renewable Energy Industry Leader at Marsh India Insurance Brokers, Kushagra Nandan, Co-Founder and Managing Director at SunSource Energy, and also the Co-Chairman of ASSOCHAM UP State Development Council, Achal Sondi, APAC Market Director at Fluence, Sandeep Chopra, Founder and CEO at Metafin, Cleantech Finance Private Limited, Ankit Doshi, Director at REI ESS, Dr. Pawan Singh, Managing Director, PTC Financial, Ketan Chitnis, Vice President, Stationery BU at Excite Electlanch Energy Private Limited, Sunil Dayal, Energy Sector and Climate Finance Expert at World Bank, Member of South Asia Chapter at CBC Financial Investor Hub. We look forward for a great session and handing over to Ms. Mani Khurana and Ms. Rashi. Dr. Rashi.
So maybe, Amit, before we start officially the session, on behalf of Cleantech Business Club, I would like to really thank to you guys, to Informa, and also to Renewable Energy India for having us since a lot of years, actually. Yes, I think since 7 years we are cooperating together, and we really value highly this cooperation. And thank you so much also for giving us an opportunity to have our keynote speech by Alexis Isakharov, who is our Vice Chair for Asia, and also CEO of the Royal Family Company of Neberi Semi-Blanc State in Mali.
Dr. Gupta, you're on mute.
We lost Thomas somewhere in between. I guess yes.
Thomas, you're on mute.
Excuse me, I just got disconnected. So just let me continue. So thank you so much for giving us the floor. And just very shortly, our video of the class.
Clean Tech and Business Club leaders gathered in Dubai with the leaders of financial and investor community, but also political decision makers to explore opportunities related to exponential growth of solar, battery storage, electric vehicles, hydrogen, smart energy, and other clean technologies. Right now, you need to party. Make yourself rise up and walk away from things that's keeping you down. Yeah, you need to party till the sun rise up. Another day for you to change it. Every day of sunshine. During the next months, we will unite over 1,200 leaders on all continents to reinforce human-to-human relationship and work hand-in-hand on financial instruments and business models to scale up clean tech investments from billions to trillions while shaping the future today. Every day of sunshine, sunshine, sunshine. every day. Every day. Every day.
And we will make it by combining business with meaningfulness and joy. Thumbs up for solar.
You deserve attention when you walk into the room. Your smile lights me up like the night from the moon. Don't let no one tell you that you're not beautiful, 'cause true beauty lies inside of.
So this was just to show you our spirit of the club, and also that we are helping the industry to scale up from billions to trillions. Yes, and today's session is actually very important at that topic, because we cannot scale up from billions to trillions without storage. Yes, and what is very important in our club, that we are uniting the leaders from different industries and also from the financial sector. And I'm very happy that we have together with us Mrs. Mani, who is the main person for energy storage program in India at the World Bank. And of course, you see, like, we have together with us also Rush from the Blockchain Alliance. So we came up with the new definition, human to human blockchain. Yes, so our network is human to human blockchain, and let's extend this blockchain today. So in our club, we have the following leaders, also including the leaders from the World Bank, from the industry, from the organizations. And officially, I can now announce that we have an office in New Delhi. So we'll be even more active in India. But now let me give the floor to Dr. Rashi, who is a chair of our energy storage hub on a global level. And she will be giving a floor to our chairpersons and also to the speaker. So thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward for the interesting discussion, and let's scale up from billions to trillions together.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, REI, for this wonderful session. And let's first hear from the Honorary Chair, Shri K.S. Pokhliji, on his view on financing battery storage and deployment in the country. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rashi, and I welcome all the participants this afternoon. I see a panel of all the experts here listed, and it will be interesting to hear all of you during 1 hour session. Well, now why battery has taken a lot of traction in last 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years. 4 years back, we were not talking too much about the battery. But suddenly, everybody is talking about this, has become a new buzzword. Why this has happened is probably the cost for solar and wind have come down. They are at par with thermal power plants, even lower at non-pit head stations. And governments across the world have increased their targets for renewable energy. Like India has set a 450 gigawatt target for 2030. And what is important is that this huge amount of energy cannot be integrated unless you have storage available with you. So there are 2 or 3 ways of storage. Maybe battery storage is one. If you have thermal storage, you have hydro storage. Now the hydro costs are much higher today. This takes much longer to construct a hydro pumped storage scheme, So I don't think we have a window for hydro projects of more than 5 to 6 years, because the battery costs have come down drastically. We have seen that from 2010 to today, the battery costs have come down by 85%. In a similar way, when the PV costs had come down almost in a similar fashion. And it is further expected that this cost will further go down in coming years. Government has said we will require 50 gigawatt hours of battery storage by 2025, going up to 100 gigawatt hours. If you compare it globally, it is 2000 gigawatt hours of battery storage by 2030, or it could be even more. Now, yesterday when we were discussing, I was told 60% will go for transport sector and 40% will be for stationary storage and electronics. I stand corrected. I was of the opinion that maybe 80% will go for transport. So maybe financing transport would be not big a challenge, because they are individual vehicles that you are financing, and the financing will be in a similar fashion. But financing standalone storage, gigawatt size would be a challenge. Maybe if you look at distributed generation, yes, it will still be easier because you have different revenue streams and you can monetize that. But and also in a lot of countries, the regulation is not there. If you don't have time of day tariff, you don't have regulation on lot other things, it is much easier, much difficult to monetize this. So this is going to be a huge challenge as of now, at least for financing in India. We would like to hear, and there are very few examples. Some in California, the large storage battery projects have been financed. What I would also like to mention why battery has taken a prominence is because the other form of storage, that is liquid hydrogen storage, that is few years away. I mean, the cost of green hydrogen is still 3 times more than the gray hydrogen. And that will come down. By the time that comes down and that also penetrates, yes, there will be competition in two technologies, maybe the battery storage, which is short-term, will be a long storage facility. But then large storage, I would also be interested in hearing from maybe Mani Khurana, who is leading World Bank on battery storage, how they are financing world over the storage, large storage batteries. There are few examples, and it will be interesting. We have experts from almost all areas, I think I am seeing, and we will like to hear. Dr. Pawan Singh is also here from financing side, and we would like to hear from them. And maybe in between, I will like to interject if I find something of interest. So here I will rest my talk. Thank you very much for giving me this chance.
Over to you, Mani.
Thank you. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you everyone for having me here. This topic is very close to my heart as I'm heading the project in India. And I've met a number of you in different occasions. So let me just set the context. As Mr. Popley very rightly said, battery is the buzzword. And if you even type battery storage in Google, you have n number of reports, global, for India, which are giving huge projections. And the projections for global range from $8 to $12 billion industry by 2025. For India, CA says that we will be around 108 gigawatt hour by 2030. So there are a lot of numbers. I think one thing none of the reports actually negate each other is there's a huge boom coming in battery. We are not getting into the numbers, but we are talking basically that we have to ramp up our battery storage capacity, and rightly so. Across the world, renewable energy penetration in the system is growing. And as RE grows, you will hear that battery is required. The other thing is a lot of countries are actually committing to the net zero now. Again, the battery will play a major role in the future. So having seen the role that battery has to play, India, Government of India announced in 2019 the mission for transformative mobility and battery storage. One was to integrate RE and the other was to secure the energy security of the country. Now, even though, the mission was announced, we had to study any new market. You have to study the demand and supply situation. The push to the supply side was given by the production linked incentive scheme, which has been put in place, where we are looking at a huge number of gigawatt capacity, manufacturing capacity coming in India in the future years. On the demand side, we've only seen a few pilots. We haven't really seen financing for those pilots. And even though in the last 2-3 weeks, we've been hearing about the 4 gigawatt hour by Government of India in the RLDC, we have the SECI coming out with tender for a 2 gigawatt hour, and we have NTPC coming out for a tender for 1 gigawatt hour. So there are a lot of news coming, very positive news, but we still have to see how the financing is being arranged for it. Are we doing project financing? It's all balance sheet financing. What are we looking at? And now coming to the part of the World Bank on it. So when this mission was announced, an interministerial committee was formed under Niti Aayog. And Niti Aayog then requested World Bank for a two-phase support. The first phase was a $1 million technical assistance, in which they wanted to understand where will the demand for battery come from and what is the different things needed in the ecosystem so that the market for battery actually grows. So we have done a study at the ISTS level. We've done studies at 4 states. All the studies shows that battery is needed in the system, and more battery will be needed as the price goes down. So price is one of the things, and that's where concessional financing, if that's available, plays a very important role. That is one thing. Secondly, and even though it's not a part of the discussion today, there's a lot in the ecosystem that needs to be looked at. Recycling, safety. What are we talking about? The standards, the technical specifications, what business models can be funded? All that is something that we are looking at in a technical assistance program. And that's the $1 million. Now we've started preparing the $1 billion financing for battery storage. Now, when I say battery storage, I include both the power systems and at the EV side. And the first phase will be a $250 million financing that we are in talks with different FIs. And that will be a line of credit for battery storage solution and charging infrastructure. Because in EVs, what we are seeing is a chicken and egg situation, whether the charging infrastructure comes first or the EVs will come first. So we are trying to basically deliver on that market. Having said that, I'm really eager to hear from all of you what you face constraints when it comes to financing, what are the other constraints that you face, and eager to hear you out on that. Over to you, Rashi.
Excellent. So we see a lot of new funds coming in for the battery energy storage and the EV segment, very attractive. So let's hear from Simay, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Innosis, and she's also from the CBC Empowering Hub of Women and Chair of Turkey. Let's see what she has to talk about the international perspective of energy storage and the mass adoption, how it is happening globally. Let's hear from Simay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashi, and I would like to thank organizer, for having a space for Clean Tech Business Club, and this is a very fruitful discussion. And for the international energy storage, battery perspective, so we're just seeing the, just like addressing the demands and also, just like technology deployment, and these are all like supporting each other. So it's really important from manufacturing point of view, it's really important to advance the value chain just to lower the LCOE to support the project and feed the demand. So that is probably most important perspective from the manufacturing side. And also, just like addressing the clean energy technologies and humanitarian side of the ecosystem and sustainable development, it's really important to also engage the recycling technologies in the manufacturing process. So that's also another point of view. So today we're just seeing the just raises and and increases in the raw material prices for batteries, which also changing dimension, but there is a demand from the international projects, especially for energy storage, also electric vehicle batteries. So it's important to keep the raw material pricing stable by collaborating and the international collaboration, and also just supporting these advanced value chains with these international collaborations that I would like to address.
Okay, that's a nice point that you said about keeping the prices stable, which is currently a big challenge to the entire world globally, to understand how the raw material prices can be stable with the logistics all gone haywire right now. So that's an interesting perspective. Now, let's see, because we have not seen too many insurance companies coming ahead to insure the project wherein you have energy storage playing a role, as well as ensuring the finances of the energy storage. So let's hear from Harsh right now on how do you think that insurance sector is really going to change or transform the energy storage sector. Over to you, Harsh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be with such a esteemed panel of all the speakers here, and also the listeners and viewers. So, I come from Marsh India, which is an insurance advisory and broking firm, and I lead the renewable energy piece there. So, just to take you through the journey of how insurance would probably, shape up or also help in achieving the targets that we are talking about, the kind of landmarks that we want to reach by 2030. So it's very important to understand or go back in history to look at the trend. And I'll just quote a very, very recent example. In 2019, the overall battery installation capacity was, the added capacity was around 2.9 gigawatts, which was 30% lesser than 2018. Now, what was the reason behind it? In 2018, 1/3 of the capacity was from Korea. And in 2018, there were several fires that took place in grid storage systems in Korea. Even after doing all the checks, even after doing all the risk management activities that had to be done, again in 2019, we saw around 5 grid storage fires that happened in Korea. Does that mean that Korea will stop deploying battery installations? Will it not work on battery storage as a technology? No, they'll continue doing that. They will continue with the technology. They will continue advancing on the technology. We as a fraternity, as the renewable fraternity, that is the thing, that we are with a technology which is shaping up, which is evolving, and it will grow. It will advance. It will have major obstacles, and we will overcome them. Now, in all this, there is a big stakeholder, as Ms. Khurana mentioned, about the whole ecosystem. We're talking about ecosystem where there'll be lenders, where there'll be entrepreneurs, where there'll be sustainable organizations who will come into action, some because of ESG, some because of their own personal goals that they have taken. With all these stakeholders in the ecosystem, it's very important to see how do we marry, a lender to a potential, investee. Now, in this scenario, what becomes very important is to understand what is the key area where a lender has problem. A lender has problem on open risk exposures. Now, these are the risk exposures where if we start structuring insurance solutions, the lenders will be very fine with it. We have seen this in solar, we have seen this in wind, we have seen this in onshore, offshore wind. All these places, when these technologies started, there were questions by the lenders, what about property damage risk? What about performance risk? And slowly and gradually, we saw that there were insurances structured for everything, from credit related risk to performance risk, to property damage risk, to natural catastrophic risks. This is exactly what needs to be followed in battery storage. The only thing, as again, it sometimes becomes a chicken and egg, whether there'll be an insurance first that is there, or whether there'll be, a person who is investing first and then there'll be an insurance given. And we as advisors in the insurance fraternity really believe that it can be very well negated, and it doesn't need to be a chicken and egg situation. It's just that all the stakeholders of the ecosystem need to sit and discuss the solutions out. And insurance is always there to be structured for such unforeseen circumstances that we may have. Maybe that the investor is on the debt side or the equity side. Their overall concern always is on the risk exposures. Can we minimize the risk exposures? And that's where, someone like an insurance policy or an insurance company can take that transfer of risk exposure and give you a complete solution towards ensuring multiple risks. So, you just need to identify what are the insurable risks. If there are any non-insurable risks, if there is something which has not happened in the past, how can we create a solution around it? How can we get the whole reinsurance and insurance fraternity together and see that we structure these solutions? This will create a complete positivity and a momentum that will then, see investors roping in their money, because the technology has to grow. The governments, the companies, the countries on a global level are focused on this. So what's required is, we don't even need to say that, will this technology be there or not there, it has to be there. It's already been mandated that it's going to be there. What we need to do is just finalize and work on solutions that can make sure that we push the technology faster, and insurance can always work along with all the other areas and look at the vulnerabilities of the overall system and provide solutions. Thank you so much.
Interesting perspective from Harsh. And then when we talk of covering the risks and transparencies in the system, let's hear from Mr. Raj Kapoor, who's the founder and CEO of the India Blockchain Alliance. And how do you think, sir, that blockchain will revolutionize the energy storage, energy trading markets, as well as bring about transparency and more sense of security in the lender, in the minds of the lender, in the user, and how this whole ecosystem would go? Over to you.
Thanks, Rashi. Thanks, Dr. Rashi. I've been listening with interest. Although this is a very, apart from being a very interesting subject, it's a subject which we really need to have, which will have a lot of relevance in the future. Also, what has as relevance in the future is blockchain, and that's where my perspectives are going to come from a blockchain perspective. The future of renewable energy, in my opinion, is the next chapter in smart technology. It is providing us a whole new level of sophistication on not only our supplies, which were earlier reliant on centralized systems. Blockchain comes and disrupts it by making it decentralized. Opportunities are endless. I'm going to just share a few of them right now. There are plenty of them. They're endless. And all of them are slowly but steadily allowing us for a substantial reduction of carbon emissions as well. In our existing green energy ecosystems, the data availability, transparency, and authenticity are actually major stumbling blocks. So blockchain solutions actually now have a dramatic impact because it decentralizes data management and distribution, makes all data immutable, thereby improving trust between stakeholders. Also, it creates a very transparent and auditable marketplace, ensuring consumers are assured of pricing, buyers, supermarkets, etc. Also, with in the new fintech, insurtech, smart contracts, all these are coming together in this ecosystem to make things fantastically easy and transparent. In fact, in the technology space, blockchain is called programmable trust. A couple of things, for example, there's in Bangladesh, there is peer-to-peer trading goes on the blockchain. We have a company called Solbox, provides them to community trading, basically. They also have their own coin. I'll just briefly mention that as well. What it does is it provides a bi-directional DC electricity meter. It's called Solbox. And this excess, it gives them to trade on, their excess energy, etc. It's got a built-in wireless internet. So it just uses not only blockchain, but IoT and other technologies to bring it happen. With the smart contract, the amount of electricity generated from a smart meter gets connected to the solar panels. With the digital wallets of members in the grid, and banks issue the loans. Banks also complete accounting at the end of the day, and this has actually not only played a role in improving the livelihood of the participants, but also helping prolonging the productive hours of the users, whether for work or for education. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Another thing which we can use blockchain, and we have been using effectively, is, I don't know how many of you may have heard of this company called Enerchain. Enerchain is, it's basically predominantly European. 40 leading European utilities use that. They offer the services to energy traders who need trading data via platforms, and all this is completely on the blockchain for veracity of data, trust, transparency, and immutability. It's also, we can do a lot of other things as well. It finances energy access. In Africa, for example, a lot of people, they use solar energy, but they don't have the money to put up the panels. Now, here's where we brought in a whole beautiful system on the blockchain-based crowdfunding. Well, what happens is individuals around the world can actually remotely purchase photovoltaic cells, which are used within solar panels of the African homes. Now, these panels are only constructed when a sufficient number of cells are pre-purchased. Following the implementation of the solar grid, households can pay the rent in fiat currency or cryptocurrency. So even there, we've actually created a local cryptocurrency, which brings me to a cryptocurrency. What is this cryptocurrency we are talking about? There are many of them. I'll just give you one example. We have so many things to talk, but we keep it nice and crisp now. we have there's a coin called the Solar coin, which actually was incubated in MIT, USA, and it pays individuals with an alternative digital currency, that's called the Solar coin, for generating solar energy. It also pays, basically it pays one coin for 1 megawatt hour of solar electricity. And it's active in 32 countries. Solar coin is going to, it wants to have much more, it actually wants to come into many more countries. We are seeing how we can bring it mainstream in India over the next few years. We also have an energy cryptocurrency. It's a blockchain that's called the KWH coin. That is a community-based ecosystem currency used based on units of clean renewable energy. In this trading system, the physical units are aggregated from multiple sources of origin, including smart meters, sensors, reading. Measurable output is tokenized on the blockchain, and these get created to KWH tokens. Finally, there is also a lot of things happening in India. One of the things which I would like to draw your attention to is in the electric space also, the blockchain-based EV charging management platform is being implemented by a couple of Canadian companies. They are integrating transactive energy networks that leverage the EVs as distributed energy resource assets using bidirectional vehicle-to-grid charging and blockchain technology. That's going to have a lot of saving and impact going forward, especially since we're moving toward electric vehicles, etc. Even yesterday, we were talking about biomass. And biomass also, there's a company called Unique. It's actually put everything on the blockchain here. It's a biomass plant owned by a farmer, say in rural India. He could start delivering the backup power to the grid as soon as the central grid fails for a price. And that can be dynamic. All this, again, on the blockchain. We have, of course, in India also good projects going on. Power Ledger is coming up, has already come up. It's already with Tata's. It's already with the UP government. They're doing a project there. They have microgrids linking clean energy products and new developments. They give consumers and producers a beautiful platform on which to monitor energy production, etc. They want to help drive development of clean, affordable energy, and they are doing really good work. It's an Australian-based company. They're already in India. WePower is another one. There are several others. There is one I would like to really mention is Acciona Energy in Iberdrola, Spain. They have aligned with the United Nations SDGs as the framework for their clean energy program. And this, they want to help Spain transit away from fossil fuels. This is something which we need very badly here. We are actually doing a prototype with a couple of universities in India on creating the similar solution, keeping in mind the India demography and the Indian challenges. So what they're doing is they're weaning away from fossil fuel, and this is actually a great model. And from a big energy multinational standpoint, I think this should be replicated big time here. We also have the Sun Exchange, which is basically an exchange. They have solar panels, can be leased them. They can have excess, all the panels can be leased out to schools, businesses. A lot of things are happening with the Sun Exchange. That's basically predominantly in Africa. Well, there's so much to say, but I'd like to keep it short right now. Blockchain technology is creating basically a decentralized energy sharing economy where power can be exchanged between peers, stabilizing the grid. Technology will allow us for a very secure, cost-efficient, low-carbon grid, and therefore forging a stronger path towards a zero-carbon world. Blockchain expertise in the renewable energy sector is vital. And one of the things we are doing is we've taken out, one of the things we start is actually the education aspect. We also need to have an education force. So,
Thank you so much, sir. You gave us a very nice perspective and something which we look forward to in implementing in the energy storage domain. Now, from what we can to what we are. Let's hear from Kushagra Nandan, who is a major EPC player in the country, on what is his expectations from the financial institutions to actually aid the adoption of renewable energies and energy storage in the much faster plan. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. First of all, thank you, Thomas and REI, for inviting me here, and especially would like to acknowledge Dr. Pawan Singh here, Shri Popli ji, and Money, definitely, who has been pioneers in this industry to open up financing and help scale the industry in the country. So I think a lot of credit goes to them for helping scale the industry, especially. And then there are experts from insurance sectors and other sectors here as well. So acknowledge what we are doing is because of the support of the financing community here, what's happening. In the storage space, we are doing few projects already, and our first project under PPA is also underway. So what our expectation as an IPP as well as EPC, more as an IPP in the distributed solar space, now merging into the storage space, is somewhat of what World Bank and SBI and ADB and PNB and KFW and Bank of Baroda has been able to do, replicate the same success in the storage space as well. And I believe Money also touched base briefly on it. So what happened in for people who are not aware, it's a classic case study with World Bank and SBI coming in, providing a non-collateral, purely project financing for rooftop solar projects scheme. It's actually opened up a massive market here in India for the distributed solar, which was very difficult to tap in before that scheme came in. So that actually opened up and helped scale a lot of companies like us into the marketplace. And then institutional investors and strategic investors, like recently we have closed a very large deal with a 125-year-old Dutch entity, SHV. So those players have started to come into India and look at this sector very, very seriously. So a lot of credit goes to the people out here in this panel. So the suggestion would be we do a similar pioneering effort in bringing in multilaterals along with the Indian financial institutions to provide project financing for the storage space, both on the distributed side as well as on the utility side. So utility is definitely coming in, but more on the storage on the distributed side as well, because this country Prime Minister has announced a data policy where which has opened up a lot of investments in, for example, into data centers, and we are seeing a lot of announcements now coming in where solar is providing power or going to provide power to data centers, for example, or other or other commercial establishments where storage can be one of the major factors to provide more competitive power along with the solar as well as the utility. So we bring in those type of products into the market to help scale this industry as well. And that will help not only companies like us, but also end users, as well as boost Indian manufacturing as well, because the larger market you open up, and it will help in opening up the Indian economy with Indian manufacturing. That will go a long way with Make in India initiative as well. So I think that is our suggestion and perspective, and replicating the same efforts what has been done here. But I would love to hear from the experts here on this aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushagra-Nandanji. It was nice to get your insights on this sector. Moving on from here, let's now hear from the giants, Dr. Pawan Singh, Managing Director of PTC Financial, on how many debt equity financing proposals have they received for specifically with energy storage projects, and how do you think, what is the most viable option for the faster adoption of energy storage from a financial institution's perspective?
Yeah.
Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. And first of all, for benefit of speakers who don't know, you called us giant. We are trying to become a giant. We are not a giant just yet. So we are PTC India Financial Services. We are an infrastructure finance company. Primarily, we started in the thermal area where we did a lot of financing. And 4 years back, our balance sheet had almost 70% financing in the thermal. 3 years back, it was 30. Today, it is less than 10. And by end of this year, we are planning it to make it zero carbon balance sheet. That is what we are hoping to. And, the buzzword which we have coined for ourselves, Kushagra, mentioned about it, and I just like to highlight is that we say, we are a sustainable infrastructure finance company, but the buzzword for us is additionality and sustainability. So when this opportunity came to me that, this is happening, this particular discussion, and I was so delighted to be the part of this discussion because it really fits into the vision or, the value chain which our company cherishes. As far as, the question that how many proposals I have got, well, we have got proposals on storage, but this is all pump storage. We have not got a proposal as yet on the battery storage. Of course, some of the developers in India, some of the promoters in India are in touch base and they are engaged with us as to, because they are also trying to freeze the fine print before they come to us. So we don't have a definite proposal, but this is an area, the way we are looking at it and the preliminary, whatever discussion which we had with many of the developers and promoters, see this whole model which is going to come up initially, this has to be looked a little differently from the way we have looked at traditional areas of financing power generation in India. So because these are not generation projects, these are, kind of projects which give flexibility, and the product is flexibility and not power. So this is the difference which ought to be understood very clearly. And that throws up a very different kind of pricing or business model, because once you are financing flexibility, it's not that you are paid on a unit basis, or the business model is not unit based, but it is on capacity based. So probably something like, when we structure it, the payment mechanism has to be, the policy framework has to be there to support kind of a model, which is, initially to start with, it has to be some kind of an annuity kind of a payment model where cash flows are ensured, unless it is combined with generation. If it's combined with generation, then it becomes kind of, combination of both your fixed cost and variable cost. Then, we look at it the way traditionally we would look at financing any generation project. But on a standalone basis, it becomes a capacity project, not a unit-based project. And this has to be backed by some kind of an annuity support so that the lenders initially get that kind of comfort. In the e-mobility battery space, we have done some financing recently. And, this was in UP, and the model which they developed, it was a very good model where they have escrowed the payments through, stamp duty collection. So I don't have to really wait for, the bus to collect the revenues and the business to collect the revenue, and then, I become risk prone to the collection process, which of course in India we know that still has a huge improvement to happen because of the leakages which take place. So this gives us a lot of comfort. It is almost kind of a sovereign kind of a lending that it becomes. So it's very important that you understand the lender's mindset, because when you have policy in frame, because India the highways were not moving actually, that come to standstill till they came with a very clear policy on the highways. And the policy was entirely based on what the developers wanted and what the lenders wanted. It was not what government wanted. So if you have a policy which is based on what lenders want and what developers want, it will be a very successful policy. So till we have, a clarity as to how things ramp up, like in case of solar, tariffs were very high. Then gradually as we ramped up, prices came down and it became a very, very viable financing model. So similarly here also we'll have to build up that kind of viable models, because once you have a viable model in place, the scales automatically come. And when the scales automatically come, the business comes. So this is what my primary understanding of the subject is, and we are very eagerly looking to finance this area, because as we say, we are into additionality, into sustainability, and this fits into our model. So we'll be happy to engage with anybody here in whichever form, maybe knowledge sharing or technical assistance or financial assistance, which way, both ways actually. There was talk about both way flow of blockchain and all that. So we'll be mindset blockchain. We'll be happy to do that. Thank you so much.
Very nice, interesting statement made that when you have a policy, policy will be only successful when you have the lenders and the developers' needs addressed. So that's interesting. Now let's hear a little more on the financier's perspective from Sandeep Chopra, who's the founder and CEO of Metafin Clean Tech Finance Private Limited. As a clean tech focused financial company, how do you think financing distributed systems can accelerate adoption of energy storage?
Thank you, Rashi. Thank you for, and Tomas, thank you for inviting me to the session. And just for the benefit of the participants, I'd just like to take a few minutes and talk about Metafin. Metafin is India's first clean tech focused NBFC, which is trying to solve the upfront capital problem for retail customers. So while most of the delegates here are talking about gigawatt scale storage and gigawatt scale projects, I've spent close to a decade in the solar industry. I was a part of the senior management team at Azure Power. And one of the things that I always grappled with was that India being 1 billion plus people, we need to start focusing, or we need to have a two-pronged approach towards moving the country away from fossil fuel to cleaner sources of energy. And therefore, how do you accelerate adoption at a retail level? And what is the biggest impediment for a retail customer today to move away from fossil fuel to clean energy? And I think the answer was very, very simple, and most of us know it. It was upfront capital. Now, the challenge is that if we have banks and if we've got layers of financial institutions here, for most of those financial institutions, solar or clean tech is a part of a raft of work that they're already doing. So there we realize that there's a gap, right? How do we bring in financial capability with technical expertise and start tapping the retail customers in the right way, right? And that is where the idea of Metafin actually came in. We are a very, very young company. We've now been in operation for over two years. And what we've realized is that today, unlike solar, which started from large scale implementations and now going into distributed generation, today with storage, we have an opportunity to actually have parallel implementations. By that, what I mean is, while the government is scaling up and while institutions like World Bank are coming in from the utility scale perspective, storage itself renders itself to actually get scaled up at a retail level as well. And that's also what we've observed over the last year and a half, that despite COVID, we found a lot of offtake from agrarian societies in the country where people are directly moving to off-grid plants, right? Just to give you an example, when we started with urban centers. COVID hit, urban centers were the first ones to close, and suddenly we found that rural started picking up. And guess what? From a rural perspective, 60 to 70% demand which is coming to us is actually off-grid, right? The challenge for us as a lender is that, look, at the end of the day, what you're financing is a revenue generating or a cost avoiding asset, right? If the asset doesn't function, your EMIs are at risk. So how do you look at risk management at that level differently? So therefore, what we said was, we will do technology assessment first, financing second. And today our risk management processes are actually a combination of operational risk assessment along with your traditional credit risk assessment. And I'm happy to let people know that despite bouts of COVID, we've till date across our loan book, we've got 0 NPAs. And that's largely driven by the fact that we are ensuring that the system that we are financing functions or delivers to the customer what is being promised. So from our perspective, I think, if you were to ask me what is the ask is for people over here, especially the World Bank, Iradas, PTC Financial, to look at people like us who are coming in and trying to solve real problems at a grassroots level. Because unless you start ends, the real impact will not be felt. right? And to me, the next wave around storage has already started, but we need to start looking deeper at the states and at the rural level. You'll see the demand upside is already coming our way.
Amazing. Very nice to see an upcoming company into this. And we've heard the lender's perspective. Now let's hear from the manufacturer's perspective on what does he think. We will now move on to Mr. Ankit Doshi, Director at REI ESS. REI has been a major stakeholder in the solar segment, and now you have forayed into the energy storage segment. So how do you think, there's a synergy between the two sectors, and how the distributed energy storage market is going to take over?
Hi, good afternoon. Firstly, I would like to thank the REI and CBC for having such a great session with such a varied views from each of the stakeholders. This helps to develop the entire ecosystem and look at the entire industry holistically rather than looking one at a time. Having storage along with solar module definitely helps a lot, because it gives an ease to the customer that there's a one-stop solution and that he may not have to further go beyond in case of any mishaps or anything that happens. There's a responsibility from one team, and that team can give an end-to-end solution. Therefore, when we look at a product from 25 years perspective, it is of the crucial importance that after-sale service is equally important. What we would also like as a manufacturer in both the segments is that in PV modules, it has almost taken us 10 years, 11 years to keep up with domestic demand and then scale up. So with next year BCD coming in, we are right now seeing huge amount of investments that are coming in for manufacturing. Almost there are more than 14 big corporate houses that have announced, and we are seeing First Solar announcing and all of those things. So what we would also like to see is that the similar approach happens in battery, but not 10 years after we kind of give away majority of the investments to other countries. So that is one thing. And from financial institutions, there should be something for people or for domestic industry where people do not have any experience in this. So most of the tenders that you had mentioned, be it NTPC, be it SECI, or all of these, they come with huge clauses of experience and all of that. But if you look at the experience and if you look at the installation done in India, there is a major gap. Therefore, it actually kind of demotivates domestic manufacturers. But I think so with all the dignitaries that we have over here, we can definitely turn that around and ensure that we are able to scale up the technology, R&D, and the entire ecosystem and not miss the bus.
Awesome. So we are not going to miss the bus, and we are not going to take 10 years. But now that you have taken up the topic of the tenders coming in, which are the big announcements made by the union government and as well as the SECI, I would quickly ask an opinion from Mr. Ketan Chitnis, who is the Vice President of the stationary BU at Excite Lagrange Energy. How do you think this energy storage market is going to shape up with specific a mention about the new tenders that have come up, and how do you think that RE and because now the tendering has changed, now they're just talking about having only these storage tenders and not combining the RE and storage together. So how do you think that is going to improve the faster adoption of energy storage in it?
Rashi, and thanks organizers for inviting me to this forum. It's really exciting, and as a manufacturing major stakeholder in India, we would definitely be happy to put our perspective on this. So with Government Day first announced the PLI scheme, I think it was a very welcome step. But then the question was whether this is going to be supported by the consumptions. Because with PLI, you are guaranteeing certain amount of manufacturing and also the penalties for not complying to the manufacturing that you have committed is multifold. So it's very important that the consumption grows in India, and the recent announcement from the Power Minister as well as the tenders which Mani has mentioned, has, I think, created a lot of hope in that particular space. So I think it's good. Government has realized that finally the consumption has to kick off in stationery, and we are very pretty sure that we will be the market will grow in the times to come. So the figures that we have certainly indicate a very good amount of growth. We are a company which is a joint venture between Leclanche and Exide, and we have know-how or competence on the end-to-end solution, right from the cell manufacturing till the entire system integration and O&M and monitoring. So we can see the whole space. And if I look at holistically, I think there is a lot of things that we need to do. And I think this is a very vast subject. It's a day-long session, if you ask me. But let us limit it from the financing perspective. I think that will be correct. If you're talking about stationary storage, as many other dignitaries have mentioned, it's very difficult to go for capex financing, and the opex model has to come up. If you look about standalone storage, I think there are two aspects. One is the grid scale storage, and other is the distributed energy storage. In grid scale storage, I don't think that there is any issue with the energy demand, because we hardly have any energy reserves with us. So if we have to give a commitment like what we have been giving commitment to solar on PPAs for storage, about what is the minimum amount of energy export that they are going to ensure, and what is going to be the cost of per kilowatt hour of energy that is being supplied from the storage, that very well gives way for OPEX model. If you look at the distributed energy storage scenario in the energy distribution networks, it can be more about the energy security and 24/7 supplies. And there is a scope of amendment of tariffs for certain installations. We did a recent project with Tata Power Delhi, Tata Power DDL, and one of the consumers on that particular feeder has been Delhi Metro, and giving a assured supply for Delhi Metro is absolutely important. There are a lot of commercial establishments, and I think that is where the better tariffs are on the card. Also, a lot of savings, which you can get with the grid scale energy storage. If you look at the financing aspects, there are two things which are very important. One is the levelized cost of storage for any application, and other is the attractive ROI. So if you are talking about a ROI of 15 years, that's no more a business case for financing. So we cautiously started working on these factors. And if we quickly look at what are the factors which can drive the levelized cost of energy, one is the we have to standardize the solution and go for the mass scale production. And one very important factor which has changed since last couple of years is that the performance of the cells have improved. So if you look at the amount of life cycles that we were getting earlier on solution level, it has gone up drastically. So building up solutions, with a better life, better cyclic life is very important. So there has been hardly any change, in the cell pricing in last couple of years. And this year, if you see, all the commodity prices are going up. So by all means, you can see that the prices, going northwards. So it's very important that you improve the performance and attain the economy. I'll be happy to tell you that a couple of years back, when we were working at 6 rupees per kilowatt hour of LCOS, we have now with the optimization have come down to 4.5 rupees per kilowatt hour, and I think that makes the storage immensely viable now. See, there are a lot of aspects to it. On grid scale storage, obviously that gives you a possibility to open the OPEX financing or performance-based business models. Also, the control over the IoT platform and energy accountability in terms of bringing transparency with the financiers and situate that whether your models are on track and working as per the performance has actually become very critical. So indigenous supply chain is also one of the factors. So we are building up now a complete indigenous supply chain, and that is bringing the cost down. You have to have a control over intellectual properties. That is where financing becomes more secure, and having your own IoT platform and having control over all the parameters is quite critical. Validation of the life cycle performance is absolutely important. Unless you do that, you are not going to attend the economy. And right now, the scenarios at which the amount of cells which are coming from China, for which the performance is unaccountable. And Rashi, you can understand that all datasheets look same. Absolutely, you can't. You would say that these are datasheets downloaded from Google and given, and people are submitting those datasheets in big tenders for containerized storages, and they do not understand the repercussions behind it. So assessment of the performance of the cells is very important. The second most important part is the efficiency of the entire system. So that would drive the economy, and the cost of the ancillary consumptions is also one more very important thing. For lithium-ion batteries, it is the cost of the cooling, and some innovation or innovative ways in terms of bringing down the cost of cooling is very important. So right now we are working on certain standard blocks. So if you look at, we have a 75.6 kilowatt hour block and a 150 kilowatt hour block for microgrid applications, and we have got a 746 kilowatt hour block for large scale storage. And if you look at the levelized cost of energy for these two blocks, it's amazing. For microgrid, we are at least 25% more economical than lead acid batteries over a 10-year TCO. And I think this is very important thing. I think this is what is going to grow the confidence of investors in terms of financing, and the complete accountability will make it very easy. Also, as Harsh was telling, the risk factor comes down. So the cost of insurance and the risk profile of the entire project comes down drastically. ROI is very important. So minimizing the OPEX, as I told, having a very efficient systems. Performance monitoring is obviously very important, and you should have a control over it. Availability of localized services and spares in terms of minimizing the downtime of the system is absolutely critical, because most of the times you import certain systems and your systems are down and it takes 2 months for you to get the spares, and that is the time you lose on your revenue. And that is not an exactly happy situation for any financer to go through. So if you look at the growth, the overall picture of the market, how is the growth which is going to come in ESS? There are a few factors. One is the LCOS, as we have spoken in detail. The other is, in earlier renewable generation, especially solar, in terms of mitigating the minimum commitment, of the energy to be exported or power to be exported, there is a huge oversizing of these plants. So you can see that all the RE plants are excessively oversized. And since now the levelized cost of storage has come down below 4.5 rupees, and they get the peak time rate tariffs of around 7.5 rupees, there is a very clear business case for these installations to deploy storage and command on the additional revenue that they can command with the help of storage. And I think that is creating a lot of traction. Also, we have been working with different government bodies, and you can see the tightening of DSM very soon. Up till now, government was encouraging generation, but now it is about entering into the regulatory phase, and tighter DSMs will definitely have to have better energy storage capacities to deliver the assured power. Then the third factor which is driving is the non-feasibility of using thermal power stations for peak demand compensation. And I'm not going to go into detail. We all know all the repercussions of that. And definitely no thermal power plant would like to be operated for 2 hours or 3 hours. It significantly adds to your carbon footprint and the cost. And I think that is not how the thermal generation utilities has to be utilized. And as we go for 24/7 commitment, we need to have energy reserves for energy security as well as the growth. I was looking at the data of how many DG sets India has, and it is somewhere around 130 gigawatt hour of DGs that we have, and that is out of energy insecurity. I can tell you, because even if you deploy storage, people are not ready to get rid of the DG sets, and that is affecting the economy of deployment of storage. So as the energy security increases, as your energy reserves increases, automatically there is going to be business cases for such installations.
Right.
And I would sum up that there is a lot of that government will do, but we always keep moving into the chicken and egg situation, and we need to break from that. And it's a strong initiative that we have the largest capacity at the inception in India of 1.5 gigawatt hour, and huge R&D expenditure and budgets that we have. So I think we as an industry has to also get ready in terms of taking these challenges and addressing it in an innovative way. And I'm very sure, I think this is in line with what Sandeep ji was talking about, a very grassroots level understanding about how your consumer works and what are the cost concerns of your consumers. And I'm very sure, Rashi, that we will come up very strongly as an industry together.
Yes, we will definitely come up very strongly as an industry, and I do understand that energy security plays a very important role. We also have understood that, and we have given a new innovation in terms of hybrid energy storage systems for the DG replacement. But now let's move on to Achal Sondi ji for understanding what is the scope for the large-scale battery adoption in the CNI sector, because CNI sector is a very important sector that we all need to cater to, and they are somebody who are still using a lot of diesel generators, and they're scared, or rather they're not really willing to come up and adopt energy storage very fast. They're still wanting somebody else to take the lead. So how do you think, financing and having battery as a service for this kind of a model for the CNI sector in specific would really help, on a faster take to energy storage?
Great, thank you, Dr. Rashi. So I'm standing between you and your Friday afternoon, so I'm going to be very quick. I think everyone on this call has actually said a lot of words I think we've all shared in different discussions, so I'm really happy. Again, talking about a capacity charge versus an energy charge and how you do a contracting, all the right things. I'm extremely excited to hear this, and I think it's going the right direction. Just for everyone who doesn't know Fluence is a JV between AES and Siemens. We are an energy storage integrator. So again, back to Harsha's point, there are many people who have self-integrated, and some of them have been unfortunate in their deployments. And there was an industry that came out of that, which is, hey, we should have integrators to help with these complex integrations of many components, ensure there's availability of the full system. And that's where we spawned out of. We've been in the industry in 13 years, and as of now, roughly 3 gigawatts of systems have been deployed globally, and including a 10 megawatt in India itself. But one thing is, we are committed to India. We believe everything is local for India. It's different for India. So we're not trying to bring in a system from outside. We're trying to make it here to the extent the right qualified equipment is available and is safe. And to everyone's point, I just want to make it a conversation really quick. Money, really, exactly. Recycling is probably the first question people ask, and it's the quickest to solve because it has been solved in other countries. We just need to get standards in place. Also, how we integrate systems and set them up and connect them to the grid. Standards need to be put in place, but again, a lot to learn from, a lot to Indianize. And then Pavan very well said about the contracting on capacity. I think that's absolutely the right way. That's exactly what we've done with the most recent 400 megawatt hour plant we commissioned in America. And finally, I think there has to be what one says, a structure to support this, and the whole ecosystem has to play a role. So I'm very excited about this. I'll touch on two topics really quick. This, as someone said, we can go on for a day. For CNI, especially on customers in the 1 megawatt to 5 megawatt range, really the fixed costs of setting up an integrated system are quite high when you're at a small scale. So to make it work, someone will build it and then they're like, oh my gosh, this system is $1,200 a kilowatt. That's too expensive. Batteries are too expensive. 5 years later, we'll talk about that. That's the wrong way to think about it. That's just because the fixed costs are too high. So the way financing arm can come in is storage as a service, or you create a platform where you say, this is the same system with the same scale, with the same controls, And this is how they will all connect the same kind of industrial load. And if that is harmonized and you do 10 or 20 of those, the cost will be far cheaper, more than half cheaper than what I just stated. And that will enable it. So who takes the step to make that happen? It has to be a financier that comes in and creates the vision of, I'm going to put 20 systems at these different industrial loads. I'm willing to take the chance to find those customers, but I will procure or at least establish the procurement of these 20 systems. The second side is you procure a large system and a storage as a service, and you kind of allocate based on the controls, which we've done before, certain parts to each industrial load. So that's on the CNI side, and that's the biggest roadblock. So that's where financier can help. On the large scale grid side, I think many people have said it before, but let's take a practical example. The question is, main thing is we don't want any more stranded assets. So building a coal plant that'll eventually be 30% capacity factor, plants that you build which will eventually be 40 to 50% gas plant capacity factors, those shouldn't be built anymore. So it's no more peakers, no more oversized. So think of your load curve as a rectangle or think of it as a bell curve. Simple as that. You want to fill the bell curve. You don't want to fill the rectangle. And storage is basically going to, from the top down, there has to be initiative, but also from a bottom up in terms of procurement. So your discoms need to see that, do I need to procure an asset and pay a fixed charge for 24/7 power? Or do I need to procure an asset for 24/7 up to a certain amount, and then the remainder can be certain durations of power, and the remainder from the market? And thinking that has to come from both sides, the purchase and from policy level, and that will actually create a buying mechanism that will enable storage to happen. So I think that's, I just wanted to keep it short. I know we're a little over time. Everyone on this call said the right things. I'm so excited. I'd love to have one-on-one conversations with everyone here. And I think, this is just a great forum and a lot of excitement. The buzzword is battery energy storage. You're right. Thank you.
Great for keeping it right, precise, on the spot completely. Well, I think, we can hear a little bit from Thomas on, what is his international perspective towards India? And how do you think, what are the next steps to brainstorm, and how do you think CBC can help India in this entire perspective?
So first of all, I would like to thank you for a really great discussion. And yes, so just a short summary. Yes, we are at the beginning of the huge market to come, of the huge industry to come. And for this, we need, of course, money. So I believe that this was a very good initiative, Rashi, and also Mani, that we brought together financial people with the industry people. And as in our club, we would like to be always practical. Yes, I believe that we can work with this group of people more in details. Yes, and I believe that because we have, I would say, like a matrix. Yes, so on one hand, we have this technology hubs, financial hubs in our club on a global level. On the other hand, we have also structure in the countries. So I think on one hand, we can combine the knowledge between financial experts, financial institutions, and storage industry on a global level, and also bring this knowledge to India. On the other hand, we can also organize a special task force, I believe, within the club, just between the financial institutions and investors, insurance, the community, energy storage, and I always believe in the new disruptive technologies. Yes, like blockchain. We should also, I think, bring fintech guys together to the board, and then through the connections with Mr. Popley, also to build this, let's say, a private human-to-human relationship with the decision makers, really to show them the perspectives and why they should now take the right decision in order to help India to become one of the leaders of this whole clean tech disruption. So I'm really relaxed today, so I was sharing a lot of pictures today, etc., because I have such a great chairperson in the Energy Hub, like Dr. Rashi. I would be really happy also if Mrs. Mani would work together with us on this topic, and all of you, you are more than welcome to join our next activities. And I believe that we should organize like a closed internal meeting, yes, with the leaders, also to invite some other leaders and to make more deep discussion together, and also maybe focus really on the business cases, yes, and also on creating partnerships. Because I'm in clean tech since 18 years, working first at solar industry in Europe, and even we were competitors, but at the end of the day, we are growing the same cake, yes, and I think that together we are stronger. It's not just, you know, like a slogan, but I think when it is introduced into life, it can really bring fruits to everybody. And we have just 9 years, yes, because we believe that we will transform the whole world just during this clean tech decade. And I would like to thank you. I believe, you know, with people like you, it will be quite an easy job. So thank you so much, Dr. Rashi. And I think that you are the best experts in the country. We provide the platform. We can provide the global connections. Very soon we will launch our World Clean Tech Hub with all the hubs in one place. So the floor is yours, and you know the best how to proceed in your country. You can count on us from the international perspective.
Well, thank you, Thomas. And now to sum up the session, what I gather from the esteemed panelists and the industry stalwarts here is that first, if we can control, or if we can, have the raw material prices controlled to some extent, improve our supply chain, cover the risks a bit so that insurance can take place, and insurance can give a peace of mind to the lender and to the user. Then we can have innovation in better technology, something that we are looking at to guarantee that what is committed on the data sheet is delivered, which covers the risk of the financiers, which gives them a peace of mind. And we come up with battery as a service in an OPEX model to have a faster adoption of energy storage into the C&I sector. We open up and have more innovative financial models so that the distributed energy storage segment as well as the large-scale grid interactive energy storage segment can come up. Just a quick note on the standardization perspective and the recycling perspective, which was not very well deeply discussed, but just a quick note on that because that is very important. Since I also belong to the standardization, I help a lot in the standardization sector. We are behind the scenes working on bringing recycling and reuse standards as fast as possible to India. India is the first country to give battery management systems standard to the entire globe. And on the recycling, yes, there is a slow adoption of recycling. What we need to understand on recycling is that currently from a liability model, we need to convert recycling to an asset model. So if we can actually bring about that change, we can innovate on that sector. I think we can have a more circular economy, and that would give a complete ecosystem and a very fast adoption of energy storage. Like on many forums I've said that India is traditionally a storage nation. We store everything. Women store a lot of energy, happiness and smiles. Okay, we store a lot of money in our bank account. Shh, nobody talk about that. And we store a lot of water. We store a lot of stuff. I mean, traditionally, imagine how our upbringing has been. So what's next that we need to harvest and store? The energy which is renewable, which is clean, green. And that will bring a different perspective to the power sector. And as Thomas rightly said, that this decade is a decade of transformation, of the energy transformation. Every type of energy, not just battery energy storage systems, but every type of energy is undergoing a complete transformation. And we all have to collectively work towards this transformation. We all have to fuel this transformation. And thank you so much, all my esteemed, beloved panelists out here. A beautiful discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. And I hope all the audiences who are listening to all of us virtually, we will soon meet in the REI's physical event, which is happening next month. And we hope to really get over this pandemic and have great sessions more like this, have a lot of brainstorming. Over to you, Amit. Thank you so much.
Just Amit, just 1 minute.
Oh, sorry.
See, there will be 4 things for financing. It is not going to be easier. First would be your risk assessment, as was discussed there. The second would be revenue flow. Third would be monetization of services. And fourth is if we can get performance insurance, as Harsh has mentioned. If these four things are there, it will be easier for the bankers to finance those projects on standalone basis. So I think the bankers will agree with me. With these words, I again hand over to Mr. Amit.
Amazing, amazing, sir. That was the icing on the cake. Amazing, super.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. In fact, Dr. Rashi, it was wonderful, and the way the session was conducted, it was extremely good. In fact, you've taken all the words which I wanted to say at the last. But yes, an excellent session, and thank you so much to all our panelists, our session moderators, Mani and Battery, and our Battery Wali, beloved Battery Wali, Dr. Rashi, and to Tomas for putting up this session. We definitely would want to relive this session at REI from 15 to 17 September, and we look for that human-to-human chain to happen, at REI. It's been a long time whereby people have actually met face-to-face rather than on internet. So looking forward for REI and for the Connect then. Thank you so much. And we wish you good wishes. Yeah, thank you so much.
But maybe before we are leaving the room, I would like to ask. Yesterday we forgot, and now as we have all the speakers together, I would like to ask to put camera on. Dear Pavan, dear Ashal, and dear Kushagra, if you are hearing us, let's put the cameras up. Pavan and Kushagra, you are here, guys. Yeah. Oh, so such a great. So let's make a thumbs up. I think we are still recording. Yes. So everybody thumbs up. Also Amit. Yes. And then thumbs up. So amazing. And then I suggest that Dr. Rashi will prepare the minutes from today's meeting, and also with proposal of the next actions. And hopefully we can meet at REI. I don't know if we can travel from Europe, but at least, we have so great members in the country. It's not a problem. And then also we'll organize some activities online. And then as we will now have also our office in New Delhi, so maybe we can also organize some meetings in New Delhi. So thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. And big thanks to Ms. Mani and Dr. Rashi and Mr. Popley for our preparation, yes, because we made a lot of preparation before the meeting. And thank you so much, Amit and Informa Renewable Energy India for giving us the floor. So together we are stronger. Thank you so much.
Yes, together we are stronger. Pleasure was all ours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Pleasure connecting.